I started the project actually just after I had come back from vacation. It was just at the very beginning of we were beginning to really understand the seriousness of the spread. And one Sunday afternoon, I was talking with my closest friend. We were talking about it, and I thought, surely Black people are going to be highly impacted by this, right? I just knew that this was going to be a reality, and I think maybe the next day we learned from Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, that indeed the most impacted 82% of the people who had died from COVID-19 were Black. And then, of course, I realized that there was a serious impact amongst brown people generally, right? That there were Black people who were being seriously impacted, Latino Americans, and then, of course, the Native American population, relative to its numbers, has been absolutely decimated by COVID-19. And so I thought that it might be really important to have a series of messages that would speak to all of those demographics. And then, of course, Asian Americans would be targeted. And of course, we've seen Asian Americans targeted not only by the president himself, but by people on the street, that this is the Chinese virus, that the virus escaped from a Chinese lab. And every time he speaks at this point, the president points to this being a Chinese virus that has been dumped on the rest of the world. So I knew that then dealing with these brown populations would be really important. And I simply, I didn't think that, 6 months later, 7 months later, I would be buried in this project and dealing with every aspect of it. I thought that I would develop all of the artwork, and that my colleague, Pierre Loving, who's my friend that I was talking with that day, would then sort of pick up the mantle and then kind of carry it forward. So we have the project now in, I think, approximately 9 different states right now, across the United States. But we also are in London, in Austria, and in South Africa. So it sort of started here in the United States, but it spread, of course, to other countries, in that other countries are experiencing the same thing. So that we're all being seriously impacted by this extraordinary epidemic that is also another form of violence. That's violence in the way that it has been mismanaged by our national leaders. By the president himself, who called it a hoax for a number of weeks, and who refused to wear a mask, and who refused the lockdown for way too long, far too long, allowing this violence to really impact frontline workers. And given that brown people, for the most part, are those frontline workers, the nurses and the clerks and the shopkeepers and the barbers and the farm workers, the fast food workers, etc. We're the most impacted, and not only because, of course, of our being on the front lines, but also because of disproportionate levels of high blood pressure, obesity, and the violence of poverty that's also, again, revisited upon us in sort of extraordinary ways. I love my fans, by the way. I love my fans. I just love them. And I'll send you some. I think they're really fantastic. And of course, Atlanta is taking the project, in fact, being led by Leatrice, which is really fantastic. And I'm hoping to have a conversation actually with Mayor Bottoms in the next couple of weeks, who of course is a COVID survivor. So we'll be talking about this. But I have fans around me. I have fans of King. I have fans of the Kennedy brothers and so forth. And of course, I go to church, and I use my fan constantly when I'm at church. And so, I made them, and before we could go back out, church hasn't resumed really in a full way in many cities across the country. but I pass them out to people that are standing in food lines often. And, uh, and immediately people start using them, right? They're standing outside, they're standing in the sun, right? It's hot, there's no shade. And suddenly I walk up and I pass out these fans. It has messaging on it about the impact of COVID-19 and the things that we must do in order to maintain our safety and to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. People start using them right away and they start reading them right away. It's been just this wonderful, tiny little object that has a wonderful level of its own cultural significance, right? To bring forward. So first of all, what is the message? What do I want people to know? Yeah, and who do I want people, and who do I want to share this information with? So on the one hand, of course, there are the people that that have been the most impacted by COVID-19, the most at risk. We have to let those people know what they must do. Basic stuff: cover your face, wash your hands, maintain a level of social distance, and of course, to be tested. So that's the most important or the most impacted. And then, there are those people who thought that COVID was a hoax, that they need to be aware, right? So making buttons that COVID is not a joke or a hoax, right? Making that sort of a statement to those people who thought that it was a hoax. And then a statement to the general population that they need to not only understand that we are all impacted, but brown people are the most impacted. Really sort of bringing, I think, levels of awareness to bear across a set of populations about the urgency of this issue and the importance of understanding the role of inequity, even when it comes to a pandemic, right? So really being aware of those populations has been really important, and then thinking about strategies for address to each of those populations. How to shape the message, how to shape the voice, how to shape the language, how to shape the image, right? I have one image that, with a group of people standing in a circle, holding hands, saying, "Don't worry, we'll hold hands again." Or, an image of my mother, in this beautiful open gesture of love, saying, "Life is beautiful, and we will make it through if we wash up, back up, and mask up." Well, you can always go to social studies. That Social Studies 101 is my organization, my nonprofit, which is where Take Six, Resist COVID, Take Six comes out of that project. And also at take6.org.